Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Welcome. Tiffany Jackson is my name, and I'm based in a small town in Australia called Byron Bay. I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Sydney, which you're probably all more familiar with, but I'm now based in a beachside town called Byron Bay, surrounded by beautiful nature and lots of beautiful blue sparkling water. Thank you for allowing me to be here today, and I'm really excited to share my story. I feel my story will probably resonate with so many of you because most of us don't necessarily have a breakdown. We just slowly drift away from what our regulated system is. One late night might become another, and all of a sudden you have 7 late nights a week. One glass of wine might become 2 or 3. And the only way that you can cope at night is with a drink. Scrolling for 5 or 10 minutes innocently every day soon becomes an hour. And you're sucked in, trying to fill a void. You know, sleeping for 5 hours a night might seem common, but it's not normal. And this is the thing, continuous brain fog, constant headaches, shoulder tension. All of this might sound familiar, and exhaustion just becomes your new normal. Now, I didn't hit a wall. I didn't end up at AA, and I didn't have a collapse. I wasn't diagnosed with a disease. I didn't have an accident or have an affair. And sure, I might have put dirty clothes in the toilet, delusionally thinking it was the washing machine. I might have forgotten to pick the kids up from school. And morning screaming matches did become our normal. But see, the thing is, none of these things that I've mentioned are actually normal. They might be common, but they're not normal. I actually simply just woke up one day and I realized I wasn't present with my kids. I wasn't sleeping at night. I was arguing with my husband all the time. My brain was foggy and everything around me was actually distorted. Now, thankfully for me, I had discovered yoga back in 1997. I wasn't a hippie, but everyone thought that I was. I'd had a relationship breakup and I needed something to bring me back to center. I'd become an avid practitioner, so I knew exactly what self-awareness was all about, but I had actually lost touch of that, you know, somewhere in the busyness and the striving to be a high achiever that I was, my nervous system had become dysregulated. It had quietly slipped out of alignment and I had stopped noticing, but more than anything, I'd probably kind of stopped caring. But I knew actually where I needed to be. I was lucky that I had that self-awareness that I had learnt many years ago. But I know, sadly, most of you don't know that. And it's this slow burn that we don't realize is happening until, for some, sadly, it is too late. Because you see, with one bad habit, it accumulates and we create a new normal. And just like what we would refer to as a bad habit, a good habit can serve us well and we can create a new normal. You see, one trajectory down or one trajectory up has a huge impact in our everyday. Now, some of you might relate to this, probably more of you than don't. So what happens is, that slow burn is, if you think about constantly pushing through fatigue, and if you think about ourselves as humans thousands of years ago, stress wasn't around. All they looked about as stress was, is there a predator? Do I need to escape from that saber-toothed tiger? Is there food for me and for my family? And is my family state safe? That stress response turned on and off very easily. But today, stress is a lot different. You see, we're hyper-scheduling our lives, our own lives, our children's lives, our partners' lives. We're racing from appointment to appointment. We're trying to do it all. And sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't really. You see, we have emails, we have notifications, WhatsApp groups, work groups, emails from school, racing, as I said, from appointment to appointment. And all of this pressure builds up, one on top of another, on top of another. Now, our nervous system doesn't know the difference between real stress and perceived stress. And every time we put ourselves into that perceived stress situation, traffic, alarms, emails, all of these things that we're doing on a daily basis, the body pumps us with cortisol. A little bit of cortisol, a little bit of cortisol, and all of a sudden we're being pumped with cortisol constantly. Now, cortisol, that's our stress hormone. A little bit of cortisol is good. Stress is good if we know how to manage it. And what happens with high-functioning women, like probably most of yourselves out there, is we mask these things with painkillers, with substances. Can't get to sleep, so I need melatonin or sleeping tablets. I'm anxious, so I need to mask pain. All these things that we're having on a daily basis, we're masking this real issue that's going on, and we need to get to the core of the problem. You might notice that you're not present with your children. You might notice that you're relying on alcohol. You're waking up at 1 a.m., you can't get back to sleep. You notice that you have a neck ache, a shoulder ache, an upset stomach. All of these things are telling us internally that something is going on, and we need to get to the core of this problem. And for me, I found meditation. Now, a lot of you might have tried meditation in the past and you're saying, oh, I've tried meditation and I couldn't sit still, or I've tried meditation and I couldn't stop my thoughts. And you know what? That's true. I said the same thing. But I came across a meditation that's extremely effective and effortless. It's a mantra-based meditation, and I learned to meditate with this mantra, which transcended my mind. So it allowed those thoughts and it gave permission to have those thoughts. And then I transcended those thoughts. It's an effortless style of meditation. And all of a sudden, I wasn't drinking every afternoon like I needed to get through the afternoon. And I was sleeping through the night. So all of a sudden, I didn't have brain fog and I wasn't delusional on a daily basis. Very simple steps. This meditation, then the trajectory was I wanted to learn more. So I learned some brain science, some neurology. I studied health science. And it became my social obligation to share the information that I had learned with others so that they didn't know to go through what I had gone through. Basically, I'm a recovered, burnt out, highly successful professional woman. I'm the person that I help now, quite ironically. And my course that I offer incorporates daily changes so that we can make big changes in our life. meditation, regulating our sleep patterns, food changes, all of these little things that we can do on a daily basis so that we can support our nervous system so that we aren't in this common stage and we are creating this new normal for ourselves, which is more joy and more vigor in our everyday life. Because calm isn't just a personality trait, it's a practice.
Wow, Tiffany, it seems to me you took everything that you personally went through, transmuted the stress, the burnout into something that is now helping other women navigate being in this space, which is not that easy. Now, you speak very openly about the whine and worry cycle many high functioning women find themselves in. Why do you think so many women normalize that way of coping?
Well, let's face it, a glass of wine does relax us. So there's no disputing that. And then when you have another glass of wine after that, you're feeling a little bit more relaxed. And then the subconscious breaks down and you think you can have another glass, because what happens is doing that, it actually does, most cases, enable you to fall asleep. But the problem is that yes, you might fall asleep, but it's usually the cause of what's waking you up throughout the night as well. And we don't necessarily know that that's the case, or we might slightly know that that's the case, but getting to sleep for so many has been a problem for so long that they think those 1 or 2 hours that they think they're getting sleep is helping them. But in actual fact, it's not helping us, because from a sleep cycle point of view, it's not deep sleep. We need to get to our REM sleep, and it can take between 90 minutes to 120 minutes to get to that REM sleep that we need to have that restful sleep at night. And that's where our brain plasticity, our neuroplasticity, it all starts to function better. It's when we're in a deep sleep state that our lymphatic system, which is the system that cleans our brain, comes into place. And that only comes into place when we have that deep sleep. So that wine and worry cycle, as I said, I've been there. I know what a glass of wine does. We need to dysregulate our nervous systems, and we think that that is the only way of doing it, but it actually isn't.
So there was a time when you were high achieving, outwardly successful, yet deeply disconnected internally. What did that disconnection show up like in your daily life and in your relationships?
Well, if I take myself back to when I was in a professional world and I was managing multi-million dollar budgets, and I was managing teams across the country and publishers, editors, creatives, clients, staff, and I thought I had it all together, like most people do. You know, you're high functioning, you think you have everything together. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until I realized that when I wanted to have children, that my nervous system was completely dysregulated. So I struggled to fall pregnant. And when I did fall pregnant, I had miscarriages. It consumed me. Then when I was fortunate to become a mother. When I did become a mother, I was arguing with my partner. I wasn't present with my children. So all of these things are masked when you think you're high functioning.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You're busy masking it and you just keep going.
We do keep going. We think we'll get to ourselves later. Oh, I'll do that later. Oh, yes, I know I need to attend to this for myself, but I'm busy doing this and busy doing that. But busy is such an overused word.
Yes.
Because the fact is we all have the same amount of time in a day. It's where you want to prioritize that time. And some of us, I know, we get so caught up in what we think we need to do that we don't really know what the reality of what the things we do need to do and how to prioritize our time. And very fortunately, actually, meditation, the style of meditation, and I touched on that with what I do, it actually gives you more time. And most people think that, by meditating or by doing something for themselves, that they're taking away time from something else they should be doing. But in fact, if you sit with yourself and you excite your nervous system, you actually become more productive and more efficient. And I'll just give you like a little analogy. If you sit down to do an email and you read that email, and if you haven't slept that night, then that email might offend you, or it might be interpreted to be asking you to do something that you're not necessarily needing to ask to, or it can set you on a trajectory of being angry. Now, if you've had a good night's sleep, or if you've got a de-excited nervous system, you'll read that email for what it is, and you'll respond to that email.
Yes.
You won't absorb all that information or spend all that time trying to justify what the person's asked you to do, or get angry, or that email, oh, I might just pick up my phone and do that, or I might just go and do this. And you get sidetracked. If you're efficient and effective in what you're doing, read the email, respond to the email, check it all, send it off. It's a very easy process. It took 30 seconds, as opposed to if you've got brain fog or get distracted, it can take 2, 3, 5, 10 minutes to do one function.
That's amazing. Now, throughout all of this, you discovered yoga and later meditation at pivotal moments in your life. What shifted inside you when you first experienced true internal calm?
Well, I don't know that I've necessarily got to true internal calm. You know, I'm a working mother. I have 3 children and a household to manage, like most people out there do. They're working and they're managing households. But what I do have is I have an internal awareness. And so I can sense when my nervous system is coming out of regulation, so it's being dysregulated. And that does come with just being. And we need to put time aside to just be. Now, yoga, as we touched on, you know, that was a savior for me many, many years ago, and allowed me to become self-aware, because it is an inward and it is an inward practice that we do need to do. And again, there's many different types of yoga out there, and a lot of people, when they first come to these things, it's uncomfortable. And the yoga that I did had a mirror in front of us, so you were very much having to confront yourself with your practice. And it's really important when you're doing something this is you actually have a good teacher, because discovering a lot of these things on your own, when you're looking in a mirror, having that self-awareness, all of a sudden you can go, I don't want to do this. It's very confronting. Change is very confronting. And so when you have a good teacher who can basically almost hold your hand, that will help you move through this discomfort. And that's the thing that we need to do, move through the discomfort so that we can change. So yoga was very pivotal for me. I had an amazing coach who allowed me to have breakdowns at times, let things out, because anything that you're holding in will manifest itself into this. So we want to get these things out. And likewise, I had an amazing meditation teacher, and I like to think that I'm also a very supportive teacher and guider, is that I share with people that this may be uncomfortable at times, and you need to move through this discomfort to get the change.
Oh my gosh. And everything you want is on the other side of that discomfort too, right? So you've lived both extremes, chronic stress, deep regulation. How would you describe the difference between surviving and truly living now?
Oh gosh, you know, they're 2 very, very big difference. I mean, when you're just surviving, you become delusional, right? You're living very much within yourself. And as I spoke about earlier, is you think a lot of these things are normal, right? And they're not normal, they're common. Yes, they're common. But having a sore neck isn't normal. Needing
No.
to have a Panadol every second day isn't normal. Having sore hips isn't normal. Not going to the toilet regularly isn't normal. These things aren't normal, they're common. And they're only common because we're living in a society where our nervous systems are dysregulated. So I've struggled with all those things. I've talked openly about how I needed alcohol and I had substances just to be able to get to sleep. Now, that's not normal. So when every day you're seeing and just seeing the traffic that you can being in a capital city, you think that this is normal, being in traffic every day, and your nervous system's just creating normal. Every time you do something, you're creating a new normal, right? And so when you remove yourself, sometimes at first you don't notice. It's not until you step back into that environment that you will notice what it's done to you.
Yeah.
And I was in Sydney last week and it was frenetic and I was racing back to appointment, and I was on mother duties as well, and I was in a 2-hour round trip to actually get my daughter to something she needed to be. I got sick, I got diarrhea, my body just wasn't used to what it was, back to where it was. My nervous system had become dysregulated.
Yes.
Once you remove yourself from that and you experience that lightness, the stomach is not upset anymore. You're going to the toilet regularly, twice a day, regularly. And a lot of people don't like talking about going to the toilet, but it's a very normal thing that we need to do every day. And that lightness that you feel, no longer having a sore neck, no longer having sore hips, that is what is normal. Might not be common, but that is what is normal. And that joy that I get to experience every day when I wake up and I go, it's a great day today. How lucky am I to be alive? Now, I am very lucky because I live by the beach. I get to walk on the beach every morning. But you know what? Not everybody gets to do that. But you got grass outside. You can go for a walk in the grass. You can get back to earth. There are lots of things that you can do to experience that joy that we should all be able to experience every day.
Now, you made the powerful decision to stop drinking and to prioritize your inner well-being. What surprised you most about how quickly your body responded?
Sleeping through the night.
Okay.
Within a week of learning to meditate and giving up alcohol, which was a subconscious thing at the point. Now, I like the occasional glass of wine, a glass of champagne to celebrate, or a glass of red wine, but I'm no longer using it to mask other issues. I certainly don't need it to wind down. In fact, every afternoon I'll do a meditation for 15 minutes, and that allows me to wind down and be refreshed again.
That is just awesome. Now, you often say that calm is not complicated, it's biological. Can you explain what that is in a way that every woman can understand?
So, an inner calmness isn't complicated. We just think it is because our nervous systems are dysregulated.
Yes.
Right? So, if you have the tools to dysregulate your nervous system, you will find calmness in everything that you do. So making the school lunches, doing the school drop-offs, getting to work will become a calmness in everything that you're able to do because you've de-excited your nervous system. And you don't need a lot to do that. Yes, you need to be disciplined, but once you start habit stacking, so introducing very easy habits every single day, your nervous system will thank you for this, because the natural state for us to be in as humans is a state of rest. It's just that what's happened over the last thousands of years is we're in a state of stress because we're hyper-scheduling our lives instead of being back to, now we're not going to go back to caveman days. I know that, no longer are the days where we're, sitting around the campfire, telling stories, dancing around, sleeping as the sun sets and rising with the sun rising.
Yeah.
That's not going to, but there are simple things that we can do every day to bring ourselves back to that as much as possible, but still be high functioning.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People think it's either one or the other, but you can have both.
Absolutely, you can have both, and it's very simple steps to have both. I am high functioning, and I'm not ashamed to say that I'm high functioning, but I have boundaries that I've created that enable me to be high functioning.
Yeah,
because you can only be high functioning for so long.
Yeah. Otherwise, you will burn out. Now, many women believe that they don't have time to slow down. What would you say to the woman who feels that her life will fall apart if she stops?
Well, first thing I'll say is your life will fall apart if you don't stop,
It's
because
true.
at some point you will be rendered choiceless. At some point, your body will go into a dis-ease. You will get sick. And when you are sick, you're no good to anybody. You're no good to your family, your partners, your work, your employers or your employees or both. You're no good to anybody when you get sick. And the World Health Organization has said that 90% of health-related issues are because of stress. Now, stress is the precursor to many things: heart disease, stroke, diabetes, even the common cold are because of stress. So if you don't look after yourself, as I said, you will be rendered choiceless and you won't be able to function. You need to look after yourself before it gets to that point. And as I said earlier, we all have 24 hours in the day. It's how you prioritize those hours. And little things like waking up and getting sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning will activate your internal circadian rhythm, which in turn will help you sleep better at nighttime. And therefore you'll be able to have a more sound sleep. So therefore you can get up without pressing snooze, snooze, snooze. And all of a sudden you've gained some extra minutes in your day.
Yeah. So there's small things you can do to work towards it. I love it. Now, you lead with integrity, compassion, and a lived experience. How has walking this path yourself shaped the way that you now support other women?
Look, a lot of it I didn't learn in a textbook. A lot of what I teach is life lessons. And the way it's shaped, I guess, because I come from such a high functioning background and I understand what it's like to feel the pressure from an employer. I know what it's like to have staff. I know what it's like to manage a family. So I'm coming from a place of realness. I am relatable because I have been there and I've had the lowest of lows, but I've also experienced the highest of highs. And I'm so fortunate that I get to live in a beautiful place. I get to travel the world for my work. I take people to India. I'm speaking at a conference in the US in January. So I'm living proof that by taking small steps every single day. Now, I didn't do 100 things all at once because that's not sustainable and that's not how I teach and that's certainly not how I work with my clients. We introduce things gradually so that we're forming these new habits, which in turn is making a huge change to your life.
I love that. And their habits, you're right. You have to develop the habit and change the way that you've been previously doing things, right?
Our brains are very malleable, Gertrude. They are very malleable. And we just need to, most of us have spent, 30, 40, 50 years creating bad habits or habits that aren't serving us. I like to say rather than bad habits. We've created these habits that aren't serving us. So we can't expect to come in and on day one create all these new habits. But every time we create a new habit that's serving us well, we
Yes.
no longer use a habit that's not serving us well.
Yes,
And we create
anymore.
all these habits, and the habits that aren't serving us, they just get washed away, just beautifully trickled away, and we start flowing beautifully.
My last two questions are a bit of a thought experiment. In the first one, I'm going to ask you if you could go back to the younger you, that young woman who was struggling with life, juggling work, children, family. If you could go back and give her 3 nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those 3 nuggets of wisdom be?
Look, I always do have a little bit of a chuckle at this, because I guess if I had this wisdom, then maybe I wouldn't be here today. But the 3 pieces of wisdom is I would lean in more. I would look for signs more. And I would probably, my third one, just to explain them, I guess, when I say look for signs more, so if something comes across your desk, so if, for example, this talk today resonates with you, or it's a little bit charming, I wouldn't put it off and go, I'll get to that in a year's time, or 2 years' time. I would lean into the charm of that and look more into meditation, or look more into finding a teacher or a support that can help you at that point that you're in. So they're the 2, look for the signs and lean in. And my third one would be probably not to take myself so seriously when I was so young. That probably caused myself to feel more stressed, because I took myself so seriously.
That is so true. So is there anything else I should have asked you and I didn't?
God, I mean, I could talk about this for hours and hours and hours on a day, and I do like to go off on a little tangents. I know that may not have even answered all your questions properly. No, look, I do think what I just said as one of the nuggets of wisdom is that if you find this conversation charming, or any of the conversations with the people that you find charming, then lean into it. Don't put off today what you can do. Don't put off for today, because it's not going to serve you. You don't want to get to a point where that you're not able to be of service to others.
Yes, thank you. Tiffany, thank you so much. I have your website at the bottom of the screen. If anybody out there is experiencing overwhelm, burnout, you need some support, please reach out to the professionals that can help you get there. And thank you to everybody.
Before you get to that point, this is the thing. A lot of us, you don't need to get to that burnt out. You don't need to collapse. You just need to know that you need support. In today's world, it's almost impossible to not have some kind of stress placed upon ourselves because of the demands of what it is. You just need to learn how to manage that so that you can operate at your optimum, because we all can.
Yeah, it's so true. I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Tiffany, thanks again for the interview.
Thank you for having me.
Bye for now, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story. Wonderful. Thank